This is the Stephen Mansfield Podcast.
Well, welcome to the Stephen Mansfield Podcast, the podcast where we look at our times through the lens of faith and leadership, character, and history. I'm Stephen Mansfield. It's great to have you with me. Let's dive right in. If you listen to this podcast, you know that I am a slightly right-of-center moderate. I'm definitely conservative, definitely a Christian, definitely an American patriot, but I am not hard right-wing. I'm suspicious of Marxism as it influences any side of our politics. I'm suspicious of tyranny. I'm suspicious of lawlessness. And so often when I take someone on or when I talk about someone critically, I see the good of them. I see the positive they're trying to accomplish. It frustrates some of you. You'd rather that I was more black and white. You'd rather that I was more of a hater against one side and a lover of another side. But that's just not how I think. And I'm not sure it's really helpful in American politics. For example, Donald Trump. I find him to be an irascible personality, irritating, frustrating, crass. I wish he didn't say the things he did. I wish he didn't have his big ego. I like some things that he's done. Some things he's done has really been brilliant, necessary correction in American history. Even more, I like some of the people he has appointed. I have always liked Marco Rubio, for example. I've liked others. Some of the people he's horribly mistreated from his past administration are friends of mine. And I dislike intensely the way he's treated Mike Pompeo and Mark Esper and others, removing their Secret Service protection. Ridiculous. So I can talk on both sides. On any given moment, you would think I hate Donald Trump or I love Donald Trump, and that's not the case. I simply am balanced. I think the world is flawed. I think the world is bent at the edges. I believe humanity has fallen, and I don't worship anybody, but I can admire the good that they do, and then I can take them on and be critical of them in some area. I'm going to do that now with Trump. Having given all that context, loving what he's done in a lot of areas, I'm disturbed by something that he has done. By the way, I want to commend, on the subject that I'm about to talk about, an article by Mindy Belz. I really like Mindy Belz. Some of you may be familiar with her. She's written about travels in the Middle East and what have you. Belz. Look her up. Subscribe to her newsletter. Really smart, really insightful, really wise. And I was already doing some research in this area, and she really brought it together for me. Not personally, but in her article. We do know each other, but she doesn't do research for me personally. So that brings me to a subject I'm concerned about. Those of you who listen to this podcast know that while I care about a lot of issues in American society that are kind of my specialty from academics, First Amendment and what have you, that foreign policy really is my main fascination, interest, and if I have any expertise, a little bit more in that area, working a lot with the Kurds, working a lot in the Middle East, living abroad, having helped in some negotiations between nations, things like that. And so I am concerned about something the Trump administration is doing, probably in an attempt to starve the deep state, probably in a Trumpite distrust of bureaucrats, a distrust of the State Department, a distrust of various parts of the government where it has surfaced that people were writing emails critical of Trump, resisting his initiatives, frankly being illegal, unpatriotic, and deep state-like. No question about it. No question the FBI had people resisting the directives of its boss. No question the State Department has done the same. So I imagine this has offended Donald Trump. I imagine it has offended his minions. And as a result, they are starving the deep state. Well, this concerns me. Because, not that I want to encourage the deep state, I think that's rebellious and unpatriotic and frankly illegal to resist the direction of the sitting chief executive. However, Donald Trump has done something when it comes to the State Department, done something when it comes to our foreign diplomats and ambassadors, which is incredibly dangerous to us right now and is costing us. I think I understand why he's doing it. But the fact that he is not appointing ambassadors, not appointing diplomats, and replacing important negotiations with donors and cronies in business is a problem. Let me give you the stats and stop just flying high. 18 months into Donald Trump's second term, more than half of all U.S. ambassadorships are vacant. In other words, Trump is doing what I guess it sort of makes sense that he would do. He doesn't trust the State Department, so he's starving it. 107 out of 195 ambassadorships, there are approximately 195 ambassadorships in the world, U.S. ambassadorships. 107 of those have not been appointed. And also, there are no candidates yet named or nominated for the post. These include countries like Saudi Arabia, Ukraine, Russia, Iraq, Pakistan, Sudan, and Venezuela. Places that are in trouble, places where we have problems, places where we're trying to rebuild, places where we need an ambassador. I think Trump either is doing it himself, for example, when it comes to Saudi Arabia, or he's farming it out to donors and fellow businessmen. He trusts businessmen more than he does bureaucrats. Now, I got to tell you, I have a lean in that direction too. I have had to contend with the State Department. I have had to try to get things done in countries where prevailing thinking amongst the bureaucrats really got in the way. Not to fail to mention just the normal glacial pace of most bureaucratic organizations. Any government department is going to move at a snail's pace. So we've got a problem in this area. Listen to some of the other stats. Across Africa, where there are huge humanitarian needs, 41 countries are without a top U.S. envoy. Now, let me be quick to say, because I've got a lot of people who are friends in the State Department, and they will write me immediately. That doesn't mean these embassies aren't staffed. And sometimes the staffs are the best part of these embassies. They're getting the most done. But still, if you don't have an ambassador, if you don't have somebody who's in charge, then somebody who's not appointed is in charge, whoever's number 2, number 3. Or there can be some aimlessness. And it's very important that we have these appointees in Africa because we've got serious humanitarian crises there. By the way, just to give you some context, 41% of the countries in Africa not having ambassadors appointed is 80% of the continent. 80% of the continent, okay? Pretty stunning. And because we don't have these people appointed, there's not someone for the people of that country to speak to, call upon, address complaints to. We've got a war going on in Iran, and we've got no U.S. ambassador. Now, I understand why we might pull that ambassador as a protest, but someone's got to be in charge. It's the same thing in Gaza. It's the same thing in other parts of the world. Sudan has got a serious problem going. We're talking again about Africa, Chad, Sudan, Congo, where Ebola is breaking out. We don't have an ambassador there. You see what we're dealing with. Now, we've got something huge going on in Venezuela. Not only did we take their leader out, as we should have, Maduro needed to go, and that was a smart, good move by the Trump administration, and it has produced good in the country. But then a pretty horrible earthquake hit, massive disaster, an earthquake in June. We have no ambassador in Venezuela. We're trying to help that country recover. It's heartbreaking what happened. Buildings collapsing, families lost. You may have even heard during the World Cup, if you paid attention to it as I did. I really enjoyed that event, having been raised in Europe and having a love for world football, which is not a sport I play, but I enjoy watching, that a number of the players from Latin American countries had lost families, lost children, were playing with tears in their eyes because neighbors, relatives, etc., people, their fellow countrymen, had lost loved ones during this massive disaster of the June earthquakes. It goes on and on and on. And so what's happened then is that Trump has used as emissaries people who are donors, businessmen he tends to trust, wealthy donors, financiers, etc., And it doesn't play out well overseas. I mean, this is part of what frustrates me about the Trump administration. They do a really good thing and then don't follow through. For example, I believe Iran needed to be assaulted and assaulted seriously. In fact, I think it needed to be decapitated. We need regime change in Iran. Instead, we've diddled around. We blow things up and then we pull back and expect them to become Western Democrats. Well, they're not. They are extreme 12er Shiite Muslims. By the way, it's not putting down all Muslims at all. You know quite differently from me. But in Iran, it's extreme by the most extreme radical Muslim standards. And we keep striking and then waiting for them to become Thomas Jefferson and striking and waiting for them to become Thomas Jefferson. The same thing is going on when it comes to Armenia and Azerbaijan. I won't give you the whole history, but the U.S. has done a great job pulling the combatants there to sign a significant agreement, really good, really wise. But then we haven't staffed it. We haven't put anybody in country. We haven't taken it home. We had a Trump route for international peace and prosperity, TRIPP, and we negotiated it and got the combatants up to the table, and things were looking good, and then financing was needed, but we didn't staff it. We didn't put anybody in country. It's the same with a lot of the troubled countries in the world. And so we've got to come back and help these people get this thing done. Again, Trump does a good thing, and then he gets bored or distracted and doesn't send anybody in to get the job done. So Armenia and Azerbaijan, two countries where we have been negotiating brilliantly and about to make history, listen to this, has not had a Senate-confirmed ambassador since the Biden era. Now, that may not sound like that long ago, but that's years without meaningful leadership in a region and part of the world where we're doing good stuff, we're just not taking it home. It's like a husband invites his wife out, loses some weight, gets a good suit on, gets some nice cologne on, books a great restaurant, and then doesn't show up. And his wife is standing on the porch waiting to go off for this awesome event that's been promised for months, and then we don't show up. It would have been better if he'd never said anything, and that's what's going on worldwide. It would have been better if we'd never made promises, never negotiated these deals, because we're not staffing them. We're not putting people in place. We're not doing what we need to do. And so as a result, we are seeing people who are major donors to MAGA. I'm not using MAGA as a pejorative. Make America Great Again is a great slogan, and I'm glad for it. I don't know what you mean by it or what Trump means by it, but I'm never going to apologize for being happy about making America great again or continuously if you don't think it ever declined from being great. But as a result, there's a man named Konstantin Sokolov, who is a Russian-born private equity investor. He lives in Chicago. He's given $11 million to MAGA and to Trump causes, and he is the guy being entrusted to deal with Armenia and Azerbaijan. Well, nobody appointed him. He's just a wealthy investor to the Trump administration. So I believe in diplomats. I believe in ambassadors. I believe in wise people pulling the parties together, negotiating, helping them see possibilities they hadn't seen before. I've been involved in these things just a little bit. I do not want you to misunderstand. I am not a U.S. ambassador. I've just simply been at the table a few times and helped because they say, well, you work with the Kurds. So maybe you could be at the table, or maybe you could advise on this, or maybe you could help us there, or the president of so-and-so. Maybe if you were there, keep helping things be relaxed, we can make a little bit more progress. And that kind of thing has happened. But I have no official role, whatever. I don't want to be misunderstood. But I do believe in the role of ambassadors. I believe in the role of diplomats. I believe in the role of appointees. I believe one of my favorite people in American government has been Roger Carstens, who is the SPIHA, the Special Presidential Envoy for Hostage Affairs. He's the one who brought Brittany Griner home. He's the one who brought other famous hostages home. He brought hundreds of hostages home. Really good, really smart, really fun personality. And because he's so unusual and such a creative thinker, he made a massive difference in our world. And even the Taliban called him our friend Roger, not because because they thought he was on their side religiously or doctrinally, but because he was able to sit down with them and say, you don't want to keep this American. That's ridiculous. This hiker wandered over the border. They're not James Bond. Come on, let me take him. Let me put him on the plane. Let me go home. And it would happen because they trusted him. It's to have relationship, to be in the game, to be present, to talk to these people. Roger Carstens, for example, would take an expensive bottle of rum and a box of cigars, tuck them under his arm, fly down to a Latin American country, talk to a leader, say, you don't really want these people. This happened by accident. Let me take them home. Come on, let's have a sip here and talk about how this can work. And he would fill a plane with hostages from a dictatorial country and bring them home. Because he was there, because he was present, because he had relationship, because he was smart, because he could be the humble American. But he also commanded resources, because he was appointed, because he had official status, because he could go home and call the White House. And the people in the field, the people in other countries knew that. You need those kind of people. And let me say again that of the 195 countries in the world that we do have ambassadorships in, we do not have anybody appointed for 107 of them. So there's no Roger Carstens in these countries that I'm talking about. And you may think it's just a little bit of flying the flag and going to dinners, but it can be really meaningful. It can, if the person does it well, it can be about building a relationship. It can be about knowing the grandkids of the ruler of that country. It can be about showing up and yelling and screaming at the country's soccer games and so on. It can be about loving that country and caring about it and getting U.S. aid and helping them grow their economy and talking to them about their poor and making a difference. It's a role I admire. It's a role I've seen do good. It's a role I grew up a little bit in that world. My father was in Berlin, and he was a battalion commander, and he worked in intelligence, and so he would often be at the table for those things as a military officer, and came back saying really good was done. Ambassador so-and-so did a great job. That was breakfast conversation in my home, and I learned and I saw that government can do good when good people invest in it. Now, I don't hate Trump. I don't hate the Trump administration. I admire a lot of it. It's doing a lot of good in the world. It's also doing some foolish things. Iran's one of them. And this business of starving the State Department is another. It ain't gonna go well. So here we are, a few months from the midterms, and we don't have meaningful representation in a majority of the world. And Marco Rubio is great, but you can't put him on a plane and fly him to every country of the world. Nobody can concentrate at that level. And by the way, you want somebody who's good. One of the men I knew very well was Ambassador Joe Rogers, and he was our ambassador to France, and he spoke French, and he drank French wine, and he'd have dinners, and he would go to the sporting events, and he'd go to the agricultural fests, and he and his wife Honey would walk around and know people and shake hands and talk to them and go in the Muslim quarter and eat the food and argue about baklava, and all that kind of stuff, just having fun. And they loved him. And he was Ronald Reagan's ambassador to France. And he did a lot of good in a difficult country, by the way, a contentious country. I mean, I don't mind saying in Washington, they talk about the French being bitchy all the time. But Ambassador Rogers, he's no longer with us. God bless him. He's a great man. Ambassador Rogers bridged for us. That's what a good ambassador can do. We need more of them. We need young people who aspire to be ambassadors. We need people in those roles who aren't just big donors. You don't just want wealthy people. Thank God for wealthy people. I'm not opposed at all to wealth, and most of the wealthy people I know do a lot of good in the world and earn their wealth without oppressing anyone. So don't hear me being anti-wealth. But you don't just want the billionaire to be the ambassador. You don't just want the big donor to be the ambassador. You might want somebody who knows about the country. You might want somebody who speaks the language. You might want somebody that country already loves because of some history there. We don't have that going on in our time. So we are the United States of America. And in all humility, we're meant to be a gift to the world. We're meant to share our wealth. We're meant to bring our political wisdom. We're meant to encourage countries. We're meant to advocate for the oppressed. We've done it. We've sometimes not done it well, but we can do it well. And we can't, in a desire to starve the deep state, starve the state as a whole. That's what's going on. And we're not just starving the State Department. We're starving countries. We're missing the opportunities to negotiate peace. We're missing opportunities to save lives. We're missing opportunities to build bridges. And by the way, let's just talk dollars and cents. Yes, our ambassadors build trade. Our ambassadors win deals. Our ambassadors bring our industries in connections with other countries' industries. Yes, it is about trade. It is about feeling. I'm one of the people who believes that where goods and services cross borders, armies rarely do. Build relationships, build trade. Who's got the essential metals that we need? Who's got the coal who's got the stuff that we need? How can we trade? How can we make each other better? How can we help each other prosper? And between the ridiculous approach to tariffs of the Trump administration and the refusing to staff our diplomatic role around the world, we're doing a lot of damage in the area of foreign policy. We live in a global society. That's not an advocacy for globalism. I'm not in favor of us diminishing American sovereignty for the sake of our global connections. But we live in a world. We live in a neighborhood. I live in two neighborhoods, D.C. and Nashville. Got to be respectful to my neighbors, and things go better when we take some cookies over to them, or if somebody gets sick, Bev makes soup, and be a good neighbor and know what's going on and know the names of their grandkids and play hoops with them for a few minutes. And you know what I'm saying? The neighborhood's better. People are safer. Things are more prosperous. People are happier. Stuff's going on. Recently, in one neighborhood, somebody just happened to notice the lights hadn't come on in a certain house. Turned out that somebody was passed out on the floor, but somebody cared enough to notice that Agnes hadn't shown up at the front porch like she did almost every day. This is, some of you think that I've lost my mind and started talking about the elderly. No, I'm talking about the way it goes with nations. So those of you in the Trump administration who listen to my podcast, thank you. But if you can do anything to help turn this, anything to help the anger subside, and cause the administration to realize that these diplomatic efforts are not just appointing bureaucratic enemies and the deep state. These people help fulfill the agenda of the Trump administration in its noblest form, which has to do with trade, which has to do with prosperity, which has to do with treaties. And if we'll back off bombarding people with tariffs, yes, make sure it's fair, but bombarding people with 90, 100% tariffs, ridiculous. And not staffing the embassies, let me speak it crassly, that is putting a middle finger to people we want to have partners in the world, and they feel it. When I travel abroad, I hear it from people all the time. So come on, Trump administration, let's use the State Department. If there's been a deep state effort, fine, root it out. But then put good people in place, and let's be the people, let's be the Americans we're called to be in the world in this generation.
Stephen Mansfield is a New York Times best-selling author, a popular speaker, and a frequent faith and culture commentator in international media. His groundbreaking books on faith and society include The Faith of George W. Bush, The Search for God in Guinness, Mansfield's Book of Manly Men, and Lincoln's Battle with God. Learn more at stephenmansfield.tv.